bonjour, mademoiselle, ça va?
Bonjour. I'm not going to be able to, I can mess around with Spanish and Italian, but not French, so let's just go ahead.
D'accord.
D'accord. Oh la la. We were watching that show about the French real estate agents, and I noticed they go like, oh la la, instead of ooh la la. But anyway.
And they use it for everything. Oh la la. Like we're going to use it for this movie.
Why are we...
Oh la la.
Why are we doing all this French-ish stuff?
Yeah, why?
Well, because we just saw A Private Life. And the goal for us is to see 100 2026 movie releases in 2026.
So they're not all going to be bangers.
And yeah, we want to try out lots of different kinds of things. And this does say, like, when you look on IMDb, it does say 2025 in parentheses, but this had a January 2026, like, I guess, like, wider release or American release or whatever. So
it
we
still counts.
are counting it.
Yeah.
And we're also trying to have variety.
Right.
And not everything is going to have explosions or cannibalism or whatever.
All the stuff I love. I'm really into exploding cannibals.
We gotta mix it up.
Right.
And
this movie could have had shades of fun.
Wait, it had shades of fun, or
I thought so. I thought it had shades of fun where it's like I kind of was watching a different film in my head. But I think I mentioned like the soundtrack sometimes got kooky. And it kind of was I'm watching a scene of two grown-ups, two adult humans sneaking into somebody's house.
Sure.
And the music's kind of like...
Sure.
And I'm like, well, what tone are you going for here, movie? Because they're breaking the law. They're also doctors.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm getting ahead. So let's just break it down.
No, okay, and this is, spoilers only in our channel. So this is we encourage you to go see movies, and then we're one of your options for...
discussing it
a
after.
long chat.
Yeah.
That's sometimes going like, well, what did we just see?
We're your
in
friends
detail, in rambling detail. Yeah. Yes. This is A Private Life, starring Jodie Foster. It is written by Anne Berest, Rebecca Zlotowski, and Gaëlle Moss, and directed by Rebecca Zlotowski. So, definitely some nice woman power going on here. But what did they do with that woman power? What story are we telling? For me, this like a lot of times I think in terms of what cafeteria table would this sit at? I think this would sit at the After the Hunt cafeteria table for me.
Yep.
For various reasons. And it was slightly more satisfying a movie than that, but also equally perplexing and equally shabby chic intellectual. But let me hear what you have to say, Squirrel, and maybe you can even try to sum up this movie for us.
Well, let's see. I'm in agreement with you that it was After the Hunt was certainly not a comedy. It was certainly a slice of life and a dark documentary on human nature. Mm-hmm. And this wants to be the same, but again, it had a tone that I was confused about, that Jodie Foster is a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I think a psychiatrist.
I think she's a psychiatrist or psychotherapist, or whatever she is allowed in some places at least to prescribe medicine.
Yeah, the laws are
They
different.
did seem to say, like, you shouldn't be doing that here. So.
Right, and she's like, I am qualified, and what's the term? I can't remember. She says, and I'm...
Licensed?
Licensed, that's it, thank you. I'm licensed to sign prescriptions, too. So she's obviously got a doctorate in psychiatry. Let's just call it that for simplicity.
Sure.
But she also talks to her ex-husband, who is optometrist or eye surgeon. Anyway, he's a doctor too.
Whatever he is, whether he's
So
an
they're both
ophthalmologist
doctors,
or an optometrist.
but
Yes.
he sort of joshes with her later on in the film about, oh, you would have been a great gynecologist or something they joke about. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, you would have aced it. So she's obviously very intelligent, very smart, but I felt that this character has checked out. She's been doing psychiatry too long. She's not really listening to her patients, and she's recording them. So that comes across like, yeah, she's kind of burned out, and rolls her eyes at like people are late for appointments, or and so she's worried about one patient who hasn't shown up for her appointment, and this is like her third time missing an appointment. So she calls her, gets a phone call from the patient's daughter saying, "Oh, you haven't heard, she's passed away." And Jodie Foster is kind of, tears come out of her, but she's not crying. And again, sometimes I always bring it back to Seinfeld when Jerry cries for the first time in the show. He's like, "What is this salty discharge from my face?" That came across like, "I'm not crying, you're crying," or something from Jodie Foster. Like, she's so emotionally checked out.
I have an eye issue, not an emotion.
Right. That was kind of bizarre. And everyone else is like, eye issue. Why are you crying? And she's like, I'm not crying. Something's bothering me. It must be allergies. Even to the point where she asks her ex-doctor to prescribe her a placebo. Like, just give me something for this.
Yeah.
And he's like, what? The what?
Well, who asks for a placebo?
Right. Doctors, I guess. Doctors know. It'll work mentally on me.
Can you give me something that will not work for my... Okay, go ahead.
And so another plot point that happens quite early on is one of her patients is trying to give up smoking and has been coming to her for how many years? Quite a few. And they do the math where it's like he's like spent about 40,000 francs or euros on treatment, and he's wasted 8,000 euros on cigarettes, and he hasn't been able to give up. And he's like, I went to a hypnotist. And it's like, okay, what is this film going to be a battle between holistic medicine and her rolling her eyes going, right, you got hypnotized, whatever. You're actually getting treatment. I'm actually your therapist. You know, I'm giving you help. And he doesn't see it. And he's like, I just want to stop seeing you. So we've got, I guess, check number one that maybe... I was like, are we supposed to think Jodie Foster is really not that good? Right. Like I said, she's checked out. That comes across in her acting. She's obviously Oscar winner. She's great.
Yeah.
Comes across in like very subtle touches in her face, like, oh, these patients, but also I'm trying to care, and I don't want to listen to their problems. I'll just record it and listen back later, which kind of helps her out later on.
Yeah.
Anyway, smash cut to she gets invited to the funeral of her patient.
Yeah.
And the husband... Matthew, what's the actor? I recognized him from a couple of films.
Sorry, we're just going to call him Simon.
Anyway, Matty, playing Simon, the husband, like you don't want to typecast people, but he was a villain in a James Bond film.
Oh.
And he was kind of unhinged. He was a villain, sort of, you could argue with me, in Munich, but kind of unhinged, terrorist.
Yes.
He's a husband in this one, he's kind of unhinged. So he's great at doing angry Frenchman.
Right.
And I'm sure he's done millions of French films where he's very subtle and probably a loving dad or whatever, but I've only seen him where he's kind of scary, of like, there's a look in his eye like, oh, geez, he's going to hurt me. So he blames Jodie Foster for his wife's death. And the daughter talks to Jodie Foster about, it's a suicide. Did you not know? And she's like, but I prescribed like a 5 milligram pill. You can't kill yourself with 5 milligrams. Right. Like, well, she took them all. And then it turns out it wasn't a pill. Someone had altered the prescription.
Right.
And it was liquid.
Right.
And so we're often running on the plot that Jodie Foster's like, well, who altered the prescription? I'm going to Nancy Drew the crap out of this.
I'm listening back to the tapes. I'm hearing things where she said she was worried her daughter could kill her. I'm looking at the daughter. I'm looking at the husband. I'm tiptoeing around.
I'm being a detective and quite smart about it because
I'm spying.
I'm smart. And it comes across in her character. Like, I'm smart. This wasn't my fault. And I kind of got the feeling like we are with her. Like, yeah, she's so like straight-laced. It's like, no, this isn't her. It's not some weird like twist at the end, like Jodie Foster's been killing her patients this summer.
And a privately ended life. But also she, in the midst of all this, in order to deal with the inconvenient eye leaking, she, for someone who supposedly specializes in, getting into emotion and feelings and psychology, she goes to the hypnotist.
Oh, yeah.
And who succeeds in stopping her crying. She also gets some wild ideas from her hypnotic experience that lead her to have opinions about, these various characters
Right. And past lives pop up, and hypnotism could work.
Right.
And so what are your thoughts, seeing as this is like, we're in the parking lot of the cinema, we're just talking about the movie. What are your thoughts at the end where it's like, it turns out she thought the husband was scratching her car and calling her constantly and blaming her for the death of his wife. And rightly so, you think, yeah, this guy's kind of crazy and he's going to, scratch her lovely Volkswagen.
Right.
And call her and make noises and break in.
Put a bloody thing on her windshield?
Why would she touch that? That's one thing I was like, there was something on her windshield that looked like blood or...
something. And then she like drove home with bloody hands in her nice car. And then she's like taking a shower. That? So really, she's just made a whole mess. Like...
Right. And I thought, when she did that, when she took a bloody, or maybe it was just gravy or something, whatever it was on that rag that was on her windshield, she just uses the windshield wipers. I'm like, I wouldn't get near that. And then grabs the rag with her hand. I'm like, nope, no one does that. You don't know what that liquid is.
No.
And then,
it's like,
doesn't even wipe her hands on her pants or something. It's like, why would you put bloody hands on your steering? So I thought when she was doing that, they're setting her up. They're setting her up to look like a crazy killer. But no, the story doesn't go that way. But I'm like, she's doing all these things wrong. Especially that for someone so smart and well written, she goes to the police and they're so young. It's like, I think they were playing on, Jodie Foster is older, she's more experienced, and she's talking to a cop and a French policeman at that, who looks 20, and he's rolling his eyes, oh la la, you're saying it's a murder, and it's like, she would announce herself as, I am Dr. So-and-so.
Right.
Can I speak to a detective? Not, can I speak to the desk person who's like, so... you are saying it's a stalker problem, not a robbery? And she's like, sure, whatever you want to call it. All in French, by the way.
I kind of liked the little looks they were exchanging.
Sure, that was great.
That was kind of neat.
Where every time she said, like, I think it's a murder, he looks over to the other policeman, and they both kind of go, what? Right,
because someone does break in the midst of this, someone breaks into her office in the middle of the night, which, like, that's terrifying.
Right.
And I guess you're leading up to, it turns out it's the smoking client.
Right. Oh, so So it turns out all this stuff was the smoker who was angry at her and obviously had an angry partner because she leaves a nasty message. And it's like, oh, it was him all along. And he's like, sorry about the car scratching and breaking in. Sorry about the swastika I carved on your door. And she's like, what swastika?
And then he's like, it was small.
It was small by your doorbell or whatever.
Good gosh.
And it's like, oh, so, okay, her past life. She imagined Nazis coming into an orchestra. And it's like, so was that saying, oh, look how subliminal messages, like she's not really like a good mom, and her son is very estranged from her, and they argue a lot. And it's like, oh, the son shows up as a past life as a militiaman for the Germans.
And she's like, that's why we never got along.
And she's like, it makes so much sense. That's why we don't get along.
No. Yeah.
And it's like, so are we saying her hypnotism just brought up, like, she's been subliminally seeing a swastika on her front door, not noticing it, and her regression into the hypnotism is like Nazis because, and now it all makes sense, and the conductor in the orchestra was the husband who's shooting his wife. Oh, he must have killed her. This leads, and I'm like, none of this is evidence.
And then at the end, the client comes back and is her client again, and apparently he might not be done with smoking. So I'm guessing,
thanks to her
or something. So in a way, is it trying to debunk the hypnotism, which seemed very impactful for her in her experience, trying it out?
And seemed to work a little bit for him. But I thought, like, wait a minute. When they're in the police station, it's like, and the officer goes, well, it turns out to be this client of yours. Do you want to press charges? And the look on her face was like, even before she says anything, you can tell her, she's like, nah, I'm not going to press charges. Then she starts smoking outside the police station. He walks up and she's like, nah. Yep, we're smoking now.
I mean, this movie, to me, well, I feel like, starting out, you mentioned the soundtrack, starting out with, like, Psycho Killer.
Oh, right.
Qu'est-ce que c'est?
Talking Heads.
I was like, oh, this is going to be, this feels kind of hip. And, like, there were no trailers before this movie also. We went through the general commercials of Regal, and then I was like, you know what? I could probably use a Snickers. This was a matinee, so I didn't fall asleep. This totally would be the kind of movie that I would start to nod off in and then be
Right.
like, oh man, did I miss something important? Or does it just seem confusing because I was sleepy?
I kind of pre-planned that. That's why I got popcorn and candy. I was like, I'm going to need to be chewing and awake for this.
And no
'cause-
drink, so you're just like, I want to be thirsty and not fall asleep.
Right.
But-
Exactly.
But like,
You know me so well.
or maybe you did get a drink, I don't remember. But anyway, well, yeah, this movie, I mean, I think we've mentioned it, but it's in basically almost entirely in French. And I'm trying to also understand Jodie Foster's motivations here. Like as an actor, I feel like maybe she saw Ben Affleck speaking Spanish and something and was like,
Right.
hold my beer.
Maybe she lives in France. And who knows?
I can do a whole movie. And it is a cool flex. It is a cool flex.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we were listening to her on the Conan O'Brien podcast just yesterday on the way back from the movie. Didn't want to listen to her say anything about this movie, but we did hear her talk for a while. And one thing she said is that her mom always wanted her to be like a main character or not just like, you know, the side character, you know, encouraged her, don't just be like the mom or the girlfriend or the sister or whatever.
All right.
So maybe she's like still looking, you know, she's like, I need, this movie looks interesting because it puts me in a central role.
Sure did.
I do think that the fun music at the beginning was a bit of a false
Yeah.
advertising.
Like I said, the tone, it's like, is this supposed to be a dark comedy? Because some of the dialogue was great between the ex-husband and her. And especially the sort of, I mean, it's not quite Inspector Clouseau, Pink Panther level of idiocy, but when they go to the husband's house at the end and break in,
Right.
it's like, it's part horror film, part comedy. It didn't know what to, because, you know, she's rifling through drawers in the dark and then a kid comes down the stairs and it's like, whoa!
It's super annoying. She's behaving really badly, you know, and I don't feel like she ever gets much. The only person who's really busting her chops is her son, and I appreciated the character of the son a lot. I also liked the daughter-in-law, so it was
Right.
like Julian and Vanessa, and you know, in the credits, it says their both last name is Haddad-Park, so they have combined their names, and both of them, you know, have hyphenated names. They took each other's names. So, and I think that is just a little detail to show that these guys are like progressive and they're putting a lot of thought into things. And he's very hands-on with the grandchild, and Jodie Foster's character, Lillian Steiner, is just like kind of almost like, oh, no. The baby's awake, gotta go. I'm just here for some reason. I need you to order something off of Amazon for me. Like, that's something I'm not capable of.
The Sony mini discs.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you update to modern technology?
Right.
Especially that she has a smartphone where you could record hours.
Sure.
You could record hours on a smartphone.
Right.
But
And-
she loves the mini disc and is keeping it alive.
And the
apparently.
hypnotist, you know, also records, but shares the recording with the client so that you can benefit from the recording. It seems like Jodie Foster just files hers and kind of forgets about them. So I feel like the movie's doing a bit of like the idea of being present
Yep.
in moments or recording them. Also, like, clearly it's dealing with like emotion and repression and
Yeah.
stuff like that, because I feel like she maybe was super attracted to this client. I feel like that might have been part of it, was that
Right,
she was
right.
kind of in love with Paula. And Paula, it sounds like, are we to think that Paula did end her own life on purpose, that the loss of her sister Pearl was too difficult for her?
I think she ended Pearl's life and couldn't deal with it. That's what I got from that, where
Wait.
she's like, I can't, you know, the husband said she couldn't live with what she'd done.
So what did she do to Pearl?
Put the drops in some sort of drink and gave it to her, and then took the rest of the medicine herself.
Oh, okay. See, this is, I mean, you're trying to read subtitles and I don't know. I feel like this was confusing, more confusing than it needed to be.
Especially with all the, you know, regressed memories and past lives. It's like, did that happen, or is that what Jodie Foster imagined when the husband was talking to her? And because he kept it very nebulous and just said she couldn't live with what she'd done, and then we cut to sort of a, oh, here's a quick look at the past of her putting drops in a drink and handing it to.
Okay, I think at this point I was just getting bored because let's face it, this movie wasn't great. This movie wasn't that interesting, and it
could have been.
It was like, okay, nice scenery. It's neat that you speak French. I kind of like your relationship with your ex-husband. It does seem to be like a little bit about their like rediscovering each other through this process, but it all seems to be like Jodie Foster maybe not even reckoning with some of the things, not reckoning too much with the things that she's done that are kind of not great. Like she wasn't a great mom. She wrote a messy prescription that people had trouble interpreting. You know, she's kind of a checked out therapist.
Right. So, so there's my question is like when we get to the end and she's accosting the husband going, why'd you kill her? And he's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like he's genuinely perplexed. Like, what do you mean? Why did I kill her?
Yeah.
And she's like, you altered the prescription. And he's like, me and the pharmacist spent an hour trying to decipher the scribble. So it's like, yeah, was that her fault? Like, was her handwriting so bad that they went, I know you normally prescribe pills, but even the pharmacist told her, like, we had trouble working out what that was.
And what the dose
Right.
with a drop versus the dose of a pill. So is she responsible for making
without knowing
Paula accidentally kill Pearl? And then Paula couldn't deal with it and killed. Like, I don't know. And sorry, I also kind of don't care because this movie was just kind of, you know, it was weird. And when they're like sneaking into the house and now she's talking to a child and
trying
saying
to use the hypnotist
weird
technique
stuff like, oh, I'm part of your dream. Go back to bed. I'm like, no, you're out of line, lady. Right. You're in someone's house rifling through there and a child comes up. Freaking shame on you. Get the hell out of there. You know, what are you doing? You just watch these people having sex on their porch. Like, what are you doing? So you're really a, voyeur or whatever now.
Shades of it could have been a great sort of dark comedy of like when the husband answers the door naked with a towel over his bits and the ex-husband's like, I have run out of gasoline, trying to distract him. He's like, here, dry off, and throws the towel at him. And I think we both laughed at that.
That's funny, but also this is what murderers do.
Right.
You know? So we're just supposed to be fine with it because these are what? Middle-aged white people? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Rich,
and they're
middle-aged white
we're
people.
supposed to think they're not scary. Well, they could be scary because right now they're in your house and they are, talking to a child.
I did appreciate.
They don't know you're in there.
After the child goes back up the stairs, and that was kind of, I'm with you going, get out. She does pick up all of the, like she unlocked something and had all these papers and photos in her hand. She does sort of stop and go, what am I doing? And puts them back. I thought she was going to run out the house with all these papers and stuff. Or did she? No, I don't know. Did she take anything?
I think she may have put it back. Like maybe she realized but it's also subtle.
Right,
you know?
But then the husband, like, to your point about only the son busts her chops, the husband does yell at her. He's like, this is crazy. Like, you could lose your license. Is that what you want? He could file for breaking and entering.
But that was his idea.
True. But then I think the fact that she tried to stop him, she's like, maybe I am crazy. Stop. And he's like, nope, I'm committed now. Then he sees, like, when the husband takes him to the, like, oh, I do have a jerry can of gasoline. There's, like, shotguns on the wall, and he's like, oh, they're armed. Yeah, this is a bad idea. Let's get out of here.
And the guy even goes, like, oh, those aren't even loaded. Those are, whatever, like that. Like, oh, yeah, we got so much junk in here, and those aren't even loaded or whatever. I don't know, and then they just stay at the end of that road forever. Just like smoking cigarettes.
So, did you think, I thought the husband was going to appear in the window.
Yeah.
Every second they were talking, I'm like, why aren't you driving? We're about to get a jump scare of the husband going, I recognize you. You're the But no, it never happened. It was just, they had a talk about, that's crazy. I've gone too far.
Yeah.
And then cut to the last 2 minutes of the film. She's all better. She's a normal person again. She's not cray-cray.
She kind of like, oh yeah, it's like she's interested in her grandchild now.
Right.
It's all good. Hey,
immediately.
buddy.
And interested in her clients. She doesn't record anymore, and she's moved furniture around her office and fixed everything that was from the robbery where stuff was smashed.
Right.
Yay, Jodie Foster's all right. What are we watching this for?
And I don't even understand. Yeah, it's like, well, it turns out either nobody's at fault or you're at fault, Jodie Foster, Lillian. So,
And I wanted it to be, because some acting for me was like balancing the badness, but not enough. It didn't do enough. Like when Jodie Foster comes down some steps, she knew where the memorial was taking place.
yeah.
Which, again, very French, coffin just out in the street. People gathered around it. I'm like, ooh,
French style,
you're just in the street. But just from a look, like she's handing out tissues to people, kind of being nice, and then the daughter and the husband notice her. And just from a look from the husband of, what are you doing here? I really like Jodie Foster. There's no dialogue. She just looked like, oh crap, I'm gonna go now. What have I done?
Well, his yelling at her at the
yeah.
wake or whatever, like where her body was just on display, and he was like, "Get out of here!"
Right,
and that's what triggered her whole crying thing.
I was gonna say that's what triggered like tears.
Which made me wonder if those were just tears of embarrassment, rather than,
Right.
you know,
Or anger, or
yeah, not so much like, oh no, my client, but as like, you know.
But
I
also,
got
she checked out enough to be like,
humiliated.
I don't like crying, so I'm going to a hypnotist to stop me crying because the hypnotist worked for the smoker.
Right.
Is weird. Why was that your first thing? Why not turn your therapy inward and be like, oh, maybe I am crying? Nope, can't do that.
Yeah, because her client had said it worked on him. So she was obviously like doubting herself or needed to try something else. And it kind of worked for her. So what is this movie even saying? And is this conversation even interesting? Because this is not that interesting a movie. And I would...
So, did you go see it?
It's just kind
Did
of...
you walk out?
It's just kind of a French vibe. And there's nothing really...
Did you need $40 worth of snacks to stay awake?
It's not a story that I want to... that I felt like was worth the ride that I had to... you know, the time I had to spend with it.
And sadly, I don't think either does Hollywood. Like, we saw one showing midday, and that was it. That was all the cinema was willing to do for that film, was like, no one's coming to see a French subtitled film, even with Jodie Foster. So
And we're the only people in the theater.
we were the only theater, even though someone else had booked a ticket. You could see online, it was like, someone's booked center, like middle row, like the perfect seat, and then never showed up. So that should tell you something.
I did like the line where I think my favorite character was the adult son. And when he was like, oh, you're in the wrong apartment, my mother never apologizes.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, I thought that was pretty great. And I think there was a lot more exploring of that relationship. Like, to me, that was the most important relationship. Rather than trying to figure out what's the deal with Paula, she should have been thinking, what's the deal with why I don't want to interact with my awake grandchild. And I did like when she goes to see the ex-husband who's the optometrist, and he seemed really nice, and then he's kind of going like, oh, what do you know, Joseph, I think was the grandbaby, was like, oh, what do you think of Joseph these days? And she's like, oh, he's always sleeping when I'm there, because I make sure
Right.
to and
he's
never
like,
interact with
he's
his
never
child.
asleep for me.
And he's like an involved parent, and she's kind of like this cold parent. And
they touch on an awful memory of her mother. And I couldn't work out why we never went any deeper into that. Like, what was the point of keeping that so vague? Of when she's hypnotized, the hypnotist is like, oh, you're in darkness, but when you look over, there's a door. And she looks over, and sure enough, there's a door in the blackness, opens the door. And again, we did have a little conversation about this of, did they use AI to generate weird footage of a person walking in a long red coat with two sort of toddlers behind her in the snow, but it didn't look real. It looked off, like uncanny valley, what's going on? Then she's like, I don't want to go through that door. Slam. Then at the end of the film, we see a long scene, at least 30 seconds of a weird AI-generated person in a long red coat, no face, walking forwards, but it felt like they were going backwards because the feet didn't touch the snow right, with the two toddlers that didn't look like very much of anything. And I'm like, oh, is this some weird memory that she's like, oh, that's how I remember this vague, unsettling memory of my mother in a red coat in the snow. And then they never went any further, like, is the red coat blood? Is there something happen? It was just like, nope, that's a bad memory. We're not going to delve any deeper into that. But obviously I had a bad relationship with my mom. Because, when she bumps into, she goes to look for her old therapist, who then became a colleague.
Yeah.
And he's like, this sounds crazy. Your story sounds crazy. You're trying to be Nancy Drew. You're going to get into trouble. And she's like, no, I'm not. I know what I'm doing. He's like, how did your mother die? And she's like, you don't bring that up. It's like, okay, they keep touching on this and never take it anywhere. And maybe that would explain her crazy. I don't know. Like you said, what the heck?
She did say, like, to her son, like, I always put you into the arms of anybody who visited because I wanted you to survive me or something like that. Like, I
might have zoned out for that speech. We zoned out at different points. And that should tell you another thing about this film. You may just zone out.
So before we conclude,
go see movies.
Again, we were watching this, we were listening to the Conan O'Brien podcast, and an interesting thing came up in the conversation. I think it's worth mentioning. Jodie Foster, who has been quoted as saying, like, I had a certain amount of power by the time I was 12 with regards to, like, Me Too and everything like that. You know, she's saying, like, I survived, like, nothing happened to me as, like, a child actor. And in this podcast, she was talking about the filming of Taxi Driver and was talking about how it was illegal. Like, some laws were starting to come into place for what you could ask children to do in movies. And because she was supposed to be playing, like, a child prostitute, I guess. Yep. You know, in Taxi, I've actually never seen Taxi Driver, but I will see at some point. Anyway, something horrific is probably why I haven't seen the movie, if you're getting to know me at all in this podcast. But, whatever this is. So in order, a workaround legally was that the mom offered the older sister, who was only maybe like 6 years older or something than her, Connie Foster, was brought in strictly for these scenes to be a body double during the scenes that legally they could not ask Jodie Foster to do. Now, Jodie Foster kind of like says, like, it wasn't much. It was like lowering her shirt in a seductive way or unzipping, you know, someone's pants. And I'm like, okay, that's easy for you to say. It wasn't much, but they didn't want you to do it. Right. They didn't want you to do it when you were 12. But like somebody who was like just legally, like just like the world looks for, like, oh, you're 18? Here we go. You know, this girl was maybe 18, possibly 19, and she's being brought on as a body to do sexual things so that you don't have to. I just want to, I want to just bring that out there as something to consider when you say that, like, nothing happened to you you know, as a child actor. Part of it is that your slightly older sister got brought on as a body double for you. And how did that feel for the sister to be brought on as, not necessarily, we don't even know if she was being paid to do this. We don't know, like, if she got any more opportunities because of this, or if it's just like, hey, legally we can't ask her to do this, but, you know, you want to eat sandwiches too, right? In this family, so come on here and do this. It left me with a really icky feeling. Because do we know who Connie Foster is? Do we talk about Connie Foster?
Or like you said, did Jodie set her up? Like, thanks for doing this, sis.
Right.
Here's some money
forever
from my
because
career.
You unzipped somebody's pants, so I didn't have to as a child. Have a house.
Right.
I hope.
Yeah.
So if we're getting into like a discussion of this movie and like how, like, is Lillian Steiner, did Lillian Steiner play a role in the death of two women? Is she a terrible therapist who's been bilking a guy for about $40,000?
Right.
Whatever kind of bucks, whatever country bucks you want to say.
And that's just one patient. They do a montage of she has lots of patients.
Yeah.
So gets to live the rich white person life. And at whose expense? Well, maybe some of her patients aren't getting the treatment they want.
Bookshelf. It was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
But like, you know, I thought that was neat. Speaking of Nancy Drew. But yeah, it just, right. And if you realize you've been maybe half-assing it for a long time as a therapist, I don't know, do you maybe give people a discount? I don't know. Was that part of the reckoning? Or is it just a self-satisfied, like, I'm like a really good grandmother now. Look at me go.
Right.
Like, without being like a big speech. Like, you know what?
Because it did come
might
across
suck.
as a bit boomerish when the hypnotist went, there's no charge. I choose whether I charge you or not.
Yeah.
And the look of like puzzlement and like, oh gosh, you're so stupid. And on Jodie Foster's face, like, you got to get money for this. Like, ugh.
Right.
That's why you don't understand this, like, medicine.
Right.
But I would have gone, okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
Free hypnotism.
Right. Right. And I don't know. Does the therapist ever want to get rid of a client? Does the therapist ever want to get to the point where they don't need the client anymore? That's an interesting question. Hopefully, like, you're good enough at what you do. Yeah, I've never been to therapy. Can you tell? But yeah, that's an interesting question too. Like, ideally, you'd think that it wouldn't just be something. It's a luxury, I guess, if it can just be part of your life, like maybe a yoga class is. So if you have a certain amount of income, then maybe, you know, it fits into your budget, just like, you know, avocado toast or whatever they're telling us we shouldn't be spending our money on.
And when do you ever feel cured, if that's the right term? When do you ever feel like, oh, you know what? I've been going to a therapist for 10 years. I've talked about this problem enough. Maybe I should fix it. Or do you get addicted to, I know this person is giving me therapy and they will listen. So I
Right.
can always go to my appointment and just talk. And yeah, it costs me a lot of money. But yeah, like you said, if you're in a certain income bracket, is that just the thing? Like, well, I stop at Starbucks, get a very expensive coffee, and stop at my therapist, and oof, spend 40,000 euros.
And, you know, they say you're not supposed to burden your friends with all your problems. Burden your squirrels.
But who else
Squirrel
can you talk
friends.
to sometimes but your friends?
Sometimes.
That's what friends are for.
Squirrel's a good listener.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I am too.
Oh, by the way, you owe me 40,000 acorns
Oh,
for all our therapy sessions. Did I tell you I'm licensed? Wait, was that a murder? I've got to solve it. I'm off.